If you feel lost right now and you're struggling, you seem to be spiraling out of control. Maybe you're about to lose your job. You might be having relationship problems. You might be struggling with drugs or alcohol, and you feel like there's no hope in sight. Listen to this message, because God is ready to pull you out of this hole that you might be in. I think it's safe to say that we've all been there, right? A moment where life just feels hopeless, where no matter what we do, we just keep sinking deeper and deeper into this hole. For some of us, it might be addiction, it might be depression, you might be struggling in your career or struggling in your relationships, and things just feel like they're crumbling around you. And it's easy in those moments to wonder, where is God in all of this, right? Is he really here to help us? And from what I've learned from my experience, I've learned that God is never absent. Sometimes he allows us to reach that rock bottom moment, not as a form of punishment, but to show us that we need him to get out of that moment. I'll share a quick story. A couple of years ago, I came to this point in my life where I had little to no faith, right? I didn't even think that God was present in my life. But the reality is he was there the whole time, right? I was experiencing these small successes in my world, with work. I had opened a business. I had a wife and kids, right? But in amidst all that, I gave all the credit to myself, and I was so prideful, I couldn't even see that it was God working in my life. That ego and the pride had blinded me, so it didn't allow me to be grateful for what God was giving me. And over the years, with the little faith I had and living a lifestyle that pretty much went against God's principles, slowly but surely my life began to crumble around me as well. In about a span of a year, I lost my business. I had given up a high-paying job. I was in the worst shape of my life. I was struggling with alcohol, and I was about to lose my family. And in those moments, there was no one to blame but myself. But yet I still questioned, right? Like, why was this happening? Because in those moments, we often have too much ego and pride to fully blame ourselves. But when we can fully admit and take 100% accountability for our actions, that's when the work can begin, right? Because in those moments when I felt lost and I felt alone, God was actually there. He was waiting for me to come back to him. He was waiting for me to drop my pride and my ego, and eventually I did, because I had nowhere left to turn. And the way he spoke to me was through the Bible. And mind you, I hadn't opened the Bible in probably decades, right? Well over a decade. And for some reason, that's where he led me to. And when I began reading that Bible, he began pulling me out that hole. And God can do the same for you. Let's go to Psalms chapter 40, verse 1, 2, 3. It reads, I waited patiently for the Lord. He inclined to me and heard my cry. He drew me up from the pit of destruction, out of the miry bog, and set my feet upon a rock, making my steps secure. He put a song in my mouth, a song of praise to our God. This verse is speaking to the turning points in our lives, because remember, God hears you. He sees that you're in pain. He sees you're struggling. But like I said earlier, we have to put down our pride and our ego so that we can ask God for his help. And when I finally did that, and when I admitted I could not do it alone, I began coming out of this hole. And I wish I could say it was this overnight miracle, but it wasn't. It wasn't an instant moment. It didn't happen overnight. It was step by step. Every day, my faith grew a little bit more, and day by day, my actions began to change. I began aligning my actions with God's principles. So, if you're in that position now, if you feel stuck, if you feel unseen or even forgotten, I can promise you this: God is already working behind the scenes. But he's not going to fight for your attention. You have to come to him. And the next part I'm about to tell you is very important. Once you ask Him for help, once you come to God, you have to then trust Him. Even if you can't see the way out yet, even if it feels impossible, you have to trust that He will take care of everything for you. And you prove your trust by growing your faith and taking action. Because when God lifts us up, when He's not restoring us, right? He's not bringing us back to where we were. He's building us up to be greater so that we can handle more. If we go back to the end of that Psalms, in Psalms chapter 40, verse 3, it tells us, He put a new song in my mouth, a song of praise to our God. This tells us that the pain that we're going through, the struggles we face, they're not wasted. God is basically writing our story. He's preparing our testimony. He's giving us a new purpose. Because in the same way I once thought that all of my struggles and my impurities disqualified me, I see now that God was using them to bring me closer to Him and to share my story to plant seeds in others. And He can do the same for you in your own way. Remember, if you're going through it, if you're struggling, I know how it feels. I know you might not see it yet, but this is not where your story ends, right? Your breakthrough will come. Your new song is on the way, your testimony. Start by removing the noise in your life, right? Start by reading scriptures. Start taking action. And remember something, action doesn't always mean you have to do more. It could also mean dropping all of those bad habits you might have, right? Quit chasing those short-term, temporary pleasures. Build your body, build your discipline, and watch how God will begin to bless you in ways that you could only imagine. Thanks for watching.